Yeah, it's 5:05, so let's get started. Let me just brief from Full Stack Academy. So, as a managing director of Full Stack Academy, we always look to engage the trainings which is happening technologies and which has jobs. So in these regards, we are exploring different latest technologies where after doing the training, a candidate can be easily able to, fetch a job, not only in India as well as in abroad. So in these regards, we have today the MERN stack, which is a full stack development training, and which is scheduled to start in the month of June, inshallah. And this is a 3 months training, and it is a practical oriented training. The person who are new to the technology as well, they can also join because we teach the technology from the scratch. So those who are not into this technology Java domain, also they can think of joining it. And majorly, if you see, there are a lot of job openings on the Java full stack development, which is in one. And apart from this, we are also engaging, giving the trainings on full stack development into the web, as well as we are into mobile app development courses. So you know very well that every enterprise now would like to develop their CRM or any application into an mobile application. So for that, we are doing a React Native technology training, which is also a very good opportunity for getting a job. So this is we will restrict the talk today to towards this MERN stack, and this training is scheduled the last month, but due to some pandemic issues, we couldn't able to start. And thankful to our trainer and our lead instructor, who is now is all set to take a batch in the next month, and we have kept very good. Timing for this as well, and it will be mostly in an online mode, and if required on a weekly basis, we can also set up an offline to clarify your questions and any queries pertaining to your course. So on behalf of my team, and I would like to thank all my team members who have put effort to organize this one. And now I would like to invite Mujibur Rahman Saab to take over this demo. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mujib sir.
Thank you, Jasby. So let me share my screen. Good evening, folks. We'll get started. So I'll introduce myself first. So my name is Mujibur Rahman. I have 7+ of years of experience in product development. Mostly I worked with product-based companies where I was part of R&D and department, R&D, where we try a lot of new stuff. That's how I got to learn some new technologies and the skills, and that's what I'll be sharing. So this is more of as I already told, that a hands-on session rather than the theoretical sessions, as opposed to your academics, right? In academics, probably you might have learned some stuff which may be more of theory, but that's not really going to help you when you actually step into an industry or a company. So hopefully we will be definitely helping you out in gaining that knowledge. So, and as I said, I have around 4+ of years of experience in training. So training is something that I do part-time, and I do it because I love to share whatever I've learned. So although I have a full-time job, I definitely make money from that consistent income. And part-time, I try to train people, and that is definitely that's a career option that I chose out of passion. Okay, so throughout my career, 7 years and 7 to 8 years of career, I've ended up working with many technologies like .NET, C#, Java, and then JavaScript, and then Python. Then I worked with Scala, and then I'm playing around with Rust. So how did I manage to learn all these technologies? Definitely the start is difficult, but once you have understanding of one technology, learning the other becomes easy. So we try to focus on concepts instead of specific syntax. So definitely every language has its own way of expressing things, but the concept is definitely going to be similar. So that's a little bit about me. So today's agenda is going to be this. So I just want to share this here. So in just an hour, there is so much we can cover. Uh, Definitely, I cannot end up discussing entire full stack here in an hour or 1.5 hours. So I decided to go with a few things. So I'll try to introduce you what is programming, why are you here in the first place, why are you spending your money and effort and time, and then what is the current industry, because this is where your target is. You are here because you want a job. So you should know the industry. If you don't know the industry, of course, you will not be able to get a job. The reason is you need to prove yourself. And how do you prove yourself? And companies usually conduct interviews, and the interviews is going to be like a few rounds, and there you have to prove yourself that you are fit for the industry, and then they'll offer you a job. So in order to get that job, definitely you need to know programming. Apart from that, you should also know the current IT industry, what are their standards, what they are looking for, and all those things. So we'll discuss a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about what actually a computer is. Because I've seen many of students, I take interviews in my company, many of the students, they come with skills of artificial intelligence and machine learning on their resume, but when I ask them what is processor, they cannot answer. So they don't know the very, very basics of computer, but they have artificial intelligence and machine learning on their resume. So that is a negative, that kinds of create a negative impression on the interviewer, because when you don't know the fundamentals, how can you be knowing all the niche technologies? So we'll talk about that, and then we'll try to, if time permits, we'll try to get into a little bit of JavaScript introduction. So as I said, there is definitely a time constraint. We cannot cover everything. So what should you be looking at this demo, or what should you be getting out of this demo, is whether this course suits your goals, whether this will help you get a job, or sometimes you may not have a goal of getting a job. Sometimes you want to be just a freelance developer, that you want to develop application, whether that will help you, or whether my teaching style suits your needs. Do you think you'll be successful? That's what you get out of this demo. If the answer is yes, you can opt for the course. Otherwise, definitely there is no pressure, right? Any questions before we get started? So feel free to stop me in between if you have any questions. I wouldn't mind at all answering your questions. Honestly, I love to answer questions. So let me know if you have any questions before we get started. Okay, so with that silence, I assume that there are no questions. So let's get into it. So what is programming in the first place? So why are you here? Maybe some of you may be from computer science background, some of you may be from electronics background, mechanical backgrounds. The great thing about software engineering and software industry is it doesn't really care about your background. So as long as you have engineering degree, companies are willing to take you. They are willing to offer you as much as they offer a computer science graduate. So and the industry is changing very fast, and sometimes they are not even asking for a engineering degree also. So they are even ready to hire folks from probably BSc. Yeah, I've seen folks getting a job who are from BSc background, and folks getting job who are from diploma background, and so on. So that's a good thing, because even if you don't have a much of knowledge, you can still master this skill. It's not like medicine. For medicine, that you have to spend certain years, and then you have to do internship, and then only you can be called a doctor. But that's not the case in IT industry. So this is a good thing. So what exactly programming is? No matter what is your background, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. So programming is a paradigm, right? It is a field where you want to solve a problem. So there are some problems that you want to solve. So what kind of problems are we talking about? These problems are real world problems, right? So it can be anything that you think of. So probably a few decades ago, the banks used to maintain their records. How do they maintain the account details or account information? Probably using bookkeeping. They call it a bookkeeping. Maybe they use notebooks or maybe registers or something like that. The problem with that approach is it is hard to find out something. It is hard to make decisions out of it. But nowadays, what happens with the advent of computer science, they can do the bookkeeping using computers. So that's a real world problem that is solved. What happens? They can check the details in few seconds and few clicks. They can search your record. They can see your history. They can see how much amount you currently have in the account, how much you owe to the bank, and all those things. Lot of things, and it has simplified a few things. So that is like banking industry has a real world problem, and it is solved with the help of your programming. Programming solved it. So you might have seen the Ola or Uber, right? So what they actually do. So if you see a decade ago, probably if you want to travel somewhere, you have to find out a mobile number, find out a number, maybe call them and then book a cab and then wait for the driver to arrive and so on and so forth. So that was a lengthy process. Today, if you want to do the same thing with the help of these apps like Ola and Uber, what they have done, they gave you a mobile application. They said that, okay, you find out the driver, you can track the driver, and you can know the distance of your travel, and you know the estimations also, how much of money that you're going to pay. On top of that, you can even see the traffic, like how packed the roads are, like how much time it will take you to arrive your destination. All those things. That was a real world problem. It is solved. Like many things, maybe finding out your results. I mean, your colleges or your universities have a website, and they can definitely give you the results, right? You just provide your roll number, you will have your results, all those things. So there are numerous things. I cannot enumerate all those problems, but there are different industries, different problems, and all those problems are solved. The solution is programming. So with the help of programming, you were able to provide solution to these problems. So that's programming. You are called a programmer or a problem solver. So let's getting into the second point, IT industry. So the current IT industry is looking for programmers, because what IT industry does, they actually provides these solutions. So what is the current IT industry standards? They are looking for problem solvers. So 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it was a different story. Now they want problem solvers, they who are critical thinkers, who can have, we call them critical thinkers, and who has great logical skills. If you have great logical skills, you can solve a problem, and it boils down to your mathematics. So if your mathematical skills are great in school, definitely you will be a great programmer. But if your mathematical skills are not really that great, probably this is the one area that you should improve, and automatically your programming skills will also improve. So we will not be teaching you how to improve your logical skills, because that is way beyond the scope of this course. But if you want to again start from this, probably you may want to pick up an aptitude book, R.S. Agarwal, which is a very popular book. Maybe that one you may want to pick up and start solving those problems. That would be a good start. So why do you need to do this? Because the more logical skills you have, and the more critical thinking skills you have, the more amount of money that you can make. So it will all boil down to your package or money. Any questions before I move forward? Okay, so yeah, you can unmute yourself if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can keep yourself muted, because this session is getting recorded and that can jeopardize the session. So just a thought that you can keep yourself mute, and then if you have anything, you can just unmute yourself, or you can put your question in the chat. It's absolutely fine. Okay, so as the summary so far is, you want to be a problem solver and you want to be part of the current IT industry. So the current IT industry can be divided into 3 tiers. So we usually call these companies tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1 companies. So tier 3 companies are like Infosys, Wipro, and TCS. These are called service-based companies. There are many companies like Capgemini, and so on and so forth. There are many hundreds of companies you can find out. So these companies usually offer a package of 3 lakhs per annum. Usually that's the average package. So when you say 3 lakhs per annum, around 18K is going to be your take home salary. Take home salary is nothing but the amount that you're getting in hand. So that's where you will be making if you get a job in these companies. It could be 18,000 or maybe sometimes a little bit less or more, but it cannot be beyond 20,000 rupees a month. So that's not a really great salary, and that's the reason the interviews are easy to crack. These interviews, you can easily crack these interviews, and the amount that you make is also not really great. 18,000 is nothing today because of the, when you consider the current inflation. Probably the 2-bedroom flat in Hyderabad may cost you around 15,000, a decent flat on an average, again I'm saying. So yeah, not really a, this is not the area that you should be targeting. So tier 3, and there are tier 2 companies which are usually product based companies. So there are many companies. I cannot obviously name all of them, but I'll just go ahead and try to name a few of them, like ServiceNow, or maybe say ThoughtWorks, and so on and so forth. So these are product based companies, and they usually offer salaries around 7 lakhs to 13 lakhs per annum. So you can make around somewhere from 60,000 to 1 lakh per month. So that is going to be your take home salary. So this is a great salary. This is where you should be looking at, and this is the area that we would like to focus on. So we will make you target these companies. These companies are usually easy to get a job in. So if you're from a good college, probably you may already have an offer from these companies. Yeah, usually because these companies hire from the campuses. Yeah, so the career is not going to be great, and nor the salary is going to be great. So just to set the expectation, this is where we would be focusing on. We want to make our candidates crack these interviews because of the respectable salary that you get. Your work-life balance would be good, and definitely these companies are really good companies to work for. And then there are tier 1 companies like Facebook. Say you have Microsoft, and then you have Google, and say Amazon. So these companies usually offer say 13 to 15 lakhs to 20, and of course there is no limit. Sometimes you may even paid in crores depending on your college. So if you are from IITs, maybe they may end up paying you 1 crore and 2 crores salary also. So anyway, so usually the average salaries would be like this: 13 lakhs to 20 lakhs they pay, and your take home would be like 1 lakh to around, of course, close to 1.8 or 2 lakhs, like this. So these interviews are very difficult to crack. So unless you spend a lot of time, or maybe 6 months or 8 months just preparing for the interviews, you will not be able to crack them. So we will not be focusing on these because, as I said, you definitely need dedicated time and commitment in order to crack these interviews. While these interviews are easy, well, these are at the intermediate level. They're not easy, nor they are that hard. You can crack it, but with the proper guidance, and definitely commitment is needed anywhere. So it's not like we're talking about Gulf companies, right? We're talking about companies here where the competition is cutthroat. So you can't expect to get a job just like that. Definitely commitment is needed even for these companies. You should be committed to achieve anything here. So that's expected, but this is where we would be focusing on. Any questions so far or concerns? Okay, so I see somebody has raised a hand, but yeah, definitely you can unmute yourself and ask if you have, or you can put it in the chat window. Or if you have raised accidentally hand, that's fine. Okay, sure. So let's get into some real stuff. So this was just theory, right? And this is just knowing the IT industry, all those things. This is just a background, but let's get into the real stuff, what actually a programmer should know. So if your target is not getting a job, it's fine. Probably this information is not needed for you. So, but if you want to be a programmer, the next steps are important. Like let's talk about some computers. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just got one question.
Uh-huh.
As of now, I'm passed out of 2014 batch. Right now, I'm working in an IT company only from last 3 years. So, will this course be helpful for me? And can you guide about job opportunity for experienced people in this MERN stack?
Yeah, sure. So that's a good question. So definitely this is going to be helpful for even you also. So one more thing we need to be clear here. The job market is very good today. So last year when there was lockdown initially in the month of March, everybody was afraid of losing a job. But again, the pandemic is actually adversely affected that idea. So there are too many jobs. You can be hot in the market. There are not many experienced folks available to hire. Company wants people, but they are not available. So definitely this course will help you. Again, as I said, even if you're experienced, this is where we target. Don't expect that you can crack these interviews just after this course. So we have to be upfront here. We have to be honest. So no way that you'll be able to crack it unless you spend dedicated amount of time. But yeah, definitely this will help you. So again, if you have 4 years experience, probably like 13 to 15 lakhs package, I wouldn't be surprised if you make that much amount of money because the market is extremely good. So on one more thing to note here, even though the market is pretty good, it is pretty bad for freshers. So freshers, usually companies think that freshers don't have any prior experience. So that's why they're not hiring freshers. But if you can learn and you can say that, okay, I have all the skills that you need, freshers can be easily picked. So that's the problem. There are many millions of freshers available. The problem is they don't have experience. There are no experienced people available. Companies want people. So companies are in this catch-21 situation. But if you're a fresher, you can put some effort and you can show commitment. Definitely companies will hire you. This is the best time, even though if you are a fresher. But you have to go one step forward. You can't just say that I have degree and hire me here, because the situation is different. You have to learn and prove yourself. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Okay, so I assume there are no questions, so let's get into it. So what actually a computer is? So as I said, there can be many freshers in this course. So we'll start from basics. Yeah, if you are experienced, maybe this can be a little boring until we get to the point where we start discussing the real stuff. But yeah, you have to bear with me because we have a few freshers. We need to start from scratch. So the most important pieces in the computer is processor, and then there is memory. And when I say memory, I'm talking about primary memory. This is RAM, random access memory, right? And then when I'm saying disk, it is secondary memory, or your HDD or SSD, like this. Okay, so these are a few important things. Definitely you have monitor, mouse and keyboard. Those are, yeah, secondary things. You may already know these, but as a computer engineer, irrespective of your experience or you're a fresher, doesn't really matter. You should be aware of these things. So what does a processor do and how it does, and what is a memory, and why do I need that memory, and what is disk, HDD and SSD. The reason is, although you are a software engineer, still you should be intact with the hardware. we don't expect you to be a master in processor. We don't want you to build all the circuits and boards, but we want you to understand how the processor works and what you should know about the processor. So even today, your mobiles are also like computers. They are as powerful as a laptop or a desktop. So you can consider your mobile also as a computer. So how do you measure the processor and what does it actually do? So processor actually processes your instructions, nothing but your program. So yeah, so say you have a program and you want to execute it. Processor is heart of your computer. It actually takes those instructions and it executes it. So how do you measure the performance of a processor? You say it is gigahertz. 1 gigahertz, 2 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz. So this is well and good, but in the interviews, the interviewer may be interested in knowing even more from you. What do you mean by 1 gigahertz? Why do you really care about it, right? You talk to your friend, you say that, okay, my phone has 2 gigahertz of processor. But what do you even mean by that? As a programmer, you should be aware of this. So 1 gigahertz, it's frequency. So we are talking about frequency here. So frequency is, how do you define frequency? Probably you might have learned this in your 9th standard, right? It's cycles per second, probably, right? Or here, the same thing. 1 gigahertz means 1 gigahertz cycles per second. So what is gigahertz here? 10 power 9. So it's simply 10 power 9. Here, instead of cycles, it is instructions per second. So what this means is, if your program has 10 power 9 instructions, say 10 power, to simplify things, 10 power 9 lines of code or instructions, it means this will take how much time? 1 second to execute. That's what it means. So these things, interviewers would be interested in knowing it. Do you know these basics? Do you even care about it? So if you care about it, yes, that tells you that you are fundamentally strong. So your processor is responsible for executing your program, but how fast it is? If it is a 1 gigahertz processor, it can execute your 10 power 9 instructions per second. That fast it is. So the next question is, you might have again said, like, I have dual core processor, I have quad core processor, or maybe octa core processor. What do you even mean by that? So it simply means that octa core is like you have 8 cores of processor. So 8 cores parallelly working. So one processor, so instead of adding 8 processors, what they have done is they parallelized it. They said that, okay, one core is responsible for doing this, another core is responsible for doing this, and so on and so forth. So they want to parallelize these things. So if you have 8 cores, it is as good as saying you have 8 processors, because they are parallelly working together. So that's what it means. So the more cores you have, definitely the more powerful that machine is and more parallel things that it can do. So assume that you have 8 programs, they can parallelly run. And 8 cores, 1 gigahertz means, so it can execute 10 power 9 instructions per second each core, like that. Any questions so far with respect to processor? Okay, so the next thing is memory. So random access memory, it's again a piece of hardware. So you may have like 4 gigs of RAM in your mobile, or maybe in your computer, 8 gigs of RAM. RAM is very expensive, so that's why you'll never see 120 gigs of RAM on your mobile or on your desktop. Definitely they are in the most powerful systems. We call them servers, but for general purpose, they are not there, like 120 gigs of RAM or 256 gigs of RAM. You'll never see that. It's hardly 8 GB, maximum probably 16 GB of RAM that you can find it in mobiles. The reason is it is very expensive. So random access memory, it's temporary memory. As soon as you restart your mobile, entire data is lost, or you restart your computer, the data is lost. The thing is, it is extremely fast. Even though it's temporary memory, it's fast. So as opposed to it, the disk is slow. So disk is permanent, but the disk is slow. So that's why you need an auxiliary memory. You need extra memory or random access memory in order to speed up your execution. So all these things work together in order to execute a program. So this all happens internally, but you should be having idea about this. So when you write a program, when you save it, say you are writing a C program, say you have void main and it does something, say printf. So what exactly happens is you save it as some file, right? Say myprogram.c. You save it. So when you save it, it actually goes to the disk and saved. And then when you want to execute it, when you want to run it, what exactly happens? It would be brought into the memory. The reason is because it is fast. And then your processor will take it and execute it line by line. Say this is one instruction. So if you have such 10 power 9 instructions, it will take 1 second to execute that entire program. So that's what the whole idea of this computer. Okay, so that's well and good. And now one more question may come up. How the data is saved on this random access memory? So you have RAM, but how the data is saved? So the data is saved in something known as binary form or binary digits. So you have only zeros and ones, and that's how the data is saved. It's zero means, of course, they are digits, just like you have decimal, right? Where you have 0 to 9. Can you have another digit there? No, right? 0 to 9, that's all. You have 10 digits. Here you have only 2 digits, 0 and 1. So if you want to represent any number, you can represent with these only 2 digits. For instance, if you want to represent 10 in, say, random access memory, you have to convert it into binary. This is how it would be saved, 1010. That's all. If you want to say 11, it would be converted into binary and saved like that. So if you want to save 12, it would be probably 1100 like that. So why does it need to be saved like that? So it's because your random access memory is made up of transistors. So transistor can hold only 2 states, 0 or 1. 0 means that transistor has power. 0 means it doesn't have power, and 1 means it has power. Power is nothing but your electric charge. So if there is electricity in the transistor, it means 1, otherwise it is 0. So those tiny billions of transistors that you see on RAM is what is helping you to save some data. So now the interesting question comes up, how do you actually save an image? Say you have a photo that you have taken. So it is saved on the disk or it is saved on the RAM. If you are loading it, say RAM, how does it save? How does it actually get saved? Again, computers doesn't know anything. It doesn't matter whether it's an image or a file or a video or anything. It would be still ones and zeros. So the image would be converted into ones and zeros. So it would be a number eventually. So it would be saved. So even before talking about image, let's talk about, say, how does A would be saved in the random access memory? Because your RAM doesn't know how to save A. So it would be converted into binary. So A has a digital representation, right? I mean, digit representation, or you say numerical representation, that is ASCII code 97. 97 would be converted into binary. I don't exactly know what amounts to 97 here. Say this is in binary, and this would be saved on the RAM. This is what happens every time that you save something. It may be your characters, it may be your images, videos, audios, or anything. It eventually gets converted into binary and then saved. Your A has an equivalent number representation. So if you can safely say that anything that is saved on the computer, it is represented as a number. That's all. You cannot represent it. You cannot represent strings. You cannot represent anything else other than numbers. And every number, and definitely if you want to retrieve it, it would be converted back and it would be in a human readable form. These are the internal things. This is how your computer works. So now the interesting question is how the image gets saved. So the image gets saved again as a number, so as a matrix, because you have, see, you are saving 20 by 20 image. So what happens is you will have 20 rows and 20 columns like this. So every value in the matrix represents something, and that is, again, as I said, it has to be a numeric thing. So it will represent something. Say you're saving a black and white image to simplify things here. So what happens? The black and white image would have values from 0 to 255. So 0 being probably entire black, 255 being white, probably. Or maybe I'm a little confused. Maybe it is the other way around. But anyway, so in between there would be values, and every pixel represent a numeric number, and that's how images are saved. So if it is a color image, it would be a little different. Again, you need wider values in order to represent the colors, because black and white is the easiest way to represent. But irrespective of whether it's a black and white image or color image or a video file or audio file, it is still a number. So it's very, very interesting to understand. Of course, when you comprehend it, it's extremely powerful. Everything is getting converted into a number and saved, and then we are able to retrieve it back. So your videos are getting converted into binary. It's a great process. So that's how everything is saved and everything is retrieved. The only thing computer knows is zeros and ones, and the only thing that it can do is perform operations on zeros and ones. Okay, so any questions so far? Sure. So let's see whatever we have discussed so far with an example now. So I can't be able to show you everything what is happening inside RAM, but I'll try my level best to at least explain things. Say I am writing, this is a MERN course, so we will be learning JavaScript. So I'll try to learn, I'll try to teach JavaScript here first. So I'm in my Chrome browser. I'll hit F12 to bring up these developer tools. So every browser has this JavaScript engine. You don't need anything to install if you're learning JavaScript. Say if you're learning Java, you need to install it. You need to set up your machine. But if you're learning JavaScript, the only thing you need is a browser. So browser has JavaScript. So bring up developer tools, hit F12. F12 is the shortcut, or you can right click and say inspect. This will bring up the developer tools. Go to console, and this is your JavaScript engine. Just say console.log, hello JavaScript. This will print. Just like you say printf or system.out.println in Java, you say console.log and it will print the output. So this is the output statement. So if you want to perform say 1 plus 2, it gives you the output. So what I'm trying to say here is this is your JavaScript environment. This is where you can write your JavaScript code and it gets executed straight away. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to write a function, say add Okay, don't worry about all the syntax and all those things. So they say this is a piece of code. It has some name and we call it function. And then it has some variables A, B, C, and C is saving nothing but A plus B. And then it is returning something. So if I want to execute it, I can say add. This actually gives me the output, add function. So what exactly is happening here? So this is called a variable. So your random access memory is responsible for saving these variables. So it actually saves the variable. How does it create? So it actually creates a variable and saves in binary format. 10 is 1010. So it actually takes this and saves it somewhere in the random access memory. So let me just bring up my paint. Say this is your RAM. Say somewhere it has created this variable. And remember, it's all binaries. So the only thing RAM can do is save binary digits. That's all, nothing beyond that. Okay, somewhere it is saved. And then next line is var b equals to 20. So what happens? Memory allocation happens for this variable also. Say somewhere it is allocating a memory. Say it's not on top of mind what would be binary representation of 20. So let's go with this instead of just wasting time on calculating it. So you can calculate it after this session. Say this is B. Okay, and then the next line is var c equals to a plus b. So any operation, the arithmetic operations would be performed by your ALU, arithmetic logical unit, right? Any operation, and that is nothing but your processor. Your processor is responsible for executing this piece of code and saving the information in C. So a plus b will happen, but before that, what exactly processor needs to do is it needs to fetch A and it needs to fetch B and then add those two. So if you have ever done the microprocessor programming or assembly programming, you will understand this. So this is not really one statement, rather this is combination of few statements. So A needs to be fetched, B needs to be fetched, and then needs to be added, and then it needs to be saved into C. So it's like as good as 4 instructions. So remember when I said 10 power 9 instructions to execute a program, it takes 1 second. So all these things are considered there. So when I say var c equals to a plus b, this is not one instruction, rather it is a complex instruction. It has multiple things in it. So that's how the processor will do all these things, and definitely it depends on your processor capabilities. We don't go in depth here in this demo, but there are different types of processors also. So if you see x86 Intel processor, and there is ARM processor also available. There are 2 different processors. How this line is treated is different by x86 processor and ARM processor. When I'm saying ARM, this is your Qualcomm, your Apple M1 processor or A14 Bionic chip. They have your Qualcomm. Your Intel is different. We call it CISC, and this is called RISC. Complex instruction set computing and reduced instruction set computing. So different processor, and how do they treat this program is different. Of course, if you write one software for one processor, it may not work on the other processor straight away. You may need to tweak it because you're targeting processor, different processors. Anyhow, so the idea here is to understand this, what is happening here. But the question comes here, how does it actually fetch, how does the processor fetches this A and B? So how does it do? It has something known as address. So every piece of memory has some address. With the help of address, it fetches your instructions. How they are addressed is, again, usually this is asked in interview questions to understand your knowledge. So assume that, so address is, your random access memory is nothing but blocks like this. So you can consider it as blocks. So every block has some address, and these addresses, these are logical, not physical. So these are provided by the operating system. So operating system is responsible for assigning some addresses. This is just like say you are living in a community and every block has an address, right? And these are sequential. So likewise, your operating system is responsible for providing these addresses. So every block size is 1 byte. What is 1 byte? 8 bits. Every block. So say you're living in a community and every house is similar, and every house is just say 200 square yards or something like that. So these are equal bytes, and that's how the every house has some address. Here every block has some address. Now the interesting question in the interviews asked is how these are assigned. Say you have 2-bit operating system. So how many addresses, or if you have 1-bit operating system, how many addresses can an operating system assign? It would be 0 and 1, that's all. So the first, say you have only 2 blocks, 0 or 1. But if you have 2-bit operating system, the addresses would be 4. Total addresses would be 4. Here, 2. If you have 3-bit operating system, you don't have 3-bit operating system, just for the sake of demo, I'm telling you, you will have 8 addresses. Likewise, if you have 32-bit operating systems, what do you think would be the addresses? Yeah, you can put it in the chat window, give it a try. Let's see. Anyone? How many addresses would be there? Okay, so this is simple calculation. So it's simply 2 power 1 here, 2 power 2, and you'll have 2 power 32. So if you are installing a 32-bit operating system on your machine, you can generate 2 power 32 addresses likewise. So what would be those addresses? Here 0 or 1, and here the addresses would be 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. Say you have 4 blocks of memory space, and first block is having a number 0, the second block has 0, 1, and 1, 0, 1, 1. In decimal it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, like that, and so on and so forth. For 3-bit operating system would be like this, right? And so on and so forth. The same way for 2 power 32, for 32-bit operating system, usually we have 32-bit operating system and 64-bit operating system. The addresses would be 2 power 64. So who generates these addresses? Operating system generates these addresses and assigns to the random access memory. So 2 power 32 is 4 gigabytes of RAM. So if you have 8 GB of RAM and you are installing if you are installing 32-bit operating system, you can only address 4 GB of RAM. Beyond that, the operating system will not be able to assign it. Of course, there are some workarounds to do this, but if you have 8 GB of RAM and you are installing 32-bit operating system, so remember that the operating system is responsible for allocating only 2 power 32 addresses. So, okay, anyway, so we have learned that there are addresses and there is a block size and so on and so forth. So every variable that is initialized will have an address. And that's how it actually fetches the address, and that's how your program gets executed. So it fetches A, it fetches B, and calculates it and saves it in C, and finally returns this C. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so I assume there are no questions. So just summarizing things so far, what we have learned is by this time you should be a little bit of having understanding on programming, what is the current IT industry, like what are types of companies that you have, and then a bit of introduction on hardware, like what is the processor, how do you measure the capabilities of processor, what is memory and what are its capabilities, and then disk is nothing but again your hardware, right, to save your program. So you have a disk of like 256 gigs. Today phones are coming with 512 gigs of RAM. I mean to say disk, right? So you have 1 TB, 2 TB, and so on and so forth. These are huge in size. You can have a lot of disk space, and it is cheaper. So it is cheaper to have a lot of disk space, but it is extremely expensive to have memory. The reason it's cheaper is because it is slower. The reason it is expensive, it's because it's faster. So you can not have unlimited of RAM on your device, while you can have ample amount of disk space. Okay, so the next topic is JavaScript. Definitely you need this knowledge irrespective of which language you're learning or what you're doing, because it's all going to be the same. The language is just a medium to express your solutions, to tell something to the computer. So language is just going to be a medium. So eventually there would be hard disk, there would be a random access memory, and there would be processor. So a problem can be solved in any language. So some languages are easy to learn, some languages are hard to learn, and some languages are very specific. So if you are doing web development, maybe JavaScript is best for that. But if you're doing artificial intelligence, maybe Python is better. So that's why we choose a medium definitely if you choose a right medium, your life would be easier to solve the particular problem. So JavaScript is in extremely high demand. Probably for the last 5 years, there are many jobs. You can do mobile development, you can do desktop development, you can do web development using JavaScript. Pretty much in every area, there is JavaScript. So we will be learning anyhow the web development. But once you have learned web development, it becomes very easy to learn mobile development because you already have the 50% of the skills that are needed in order to do web development, like JavaScript. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. So let's get into a few concepts. As I said, this demo should give you an understanding of how I'm going to teach and whether that will fit your needs or not, or will you be able to success in your goals or not. So as I said, there is already JavaScript engine installed on my machine because I'm using Chrome browser. For any browser you use, there is definitely a JavaScript engine installed in it. So I don't need to install anything. So I can just open developer tools and play around here. So the topic that we will learn here is the variables. So you know already how to create a variable. I've already done this, say var a equals to 10, something like this. So we use a keyword var in JavaScript to declare something, and we use an assignment operator to initialize something. So these are actually two statements. You can consider them as two statements. I can change them or I can separate them. Say this is declaration and this is initialization. Two statements can be clubbed into one like this. There is declaration and there is initialization. Declaration simply means that you are naming a variable. You're saying that, okay, I intend to declare one variable and whose name is this. Why do we need a name? It's because we want to reference it like that. And then equals is an assignment operator here. So we assign something, the value. So in JavaScript, you can assign pretty much anything to a variable. So the first time I assigned a number, the second time I assigned a string. So if you don't know what is a number and string, don't worry about it. They are called data types because every data that you create has a type, right? So if I'm talking about your age has some type. I cannot say your age is XYZ. Doesn't make any sense. It's real world concept, right? Age has to be a number. And I say age is 10, makes sense. Can I say age is minus 10? Doesn't make any sense. So that's why we have different data types. So any data that you save has types. For instance, if I want to save your marks, I can have something known as an array. The reason why I need an array is because you may have different subjects, right? So instead of having 6 different variables to save 6 different subjects marks, what I did is I've created an array. So I'm saying that, okay, these are students marks. First number represent first subject marks, second number represents some second subject marks, and so on and so forth. This is also a data type. Say we are talking about your name, say your first name, something like this, right? This is a string. It cannot be a number, right? We usually name ourselves with characters. So this is string data type. So if you want to find out like what type of data is saved in one variable, you can use something known as a type of operator. You say type of name of the variable, it gives you a string, right? If I say var a equals to 100, when I say type of a, it gives me number like that. If I just declare something, or if I don't initialize anything, say it doesn't have any value, if you say b, it is undefined, which means I haven't defined any value to it. I have actually declared it. So variables is very important concept, not just for JavaScript, but for any language. Irrespective of which language you're learning, variables are there. So why do you need variables? Because you want to save some information in variables temporarily. This is just for temporarily saving some information. If you want to save something permanently, you need a database. All those things will come in future. Here we are just talking about temporary. Say you want to calculate, say, age of a person, say after 10 years. So current age is say 10. So if you want to calculate after 10 years, so what would you do? You take age and you then add 10 more years to it, right? You're performing some operation. So two fundamental operations of computer is saving information, and then performing operations on it. Two things. These are the fundamental. No matter which problem you're trying to solve, these two would be fundamental operations. One is saving, another one is performing operations on the data. For instance, saving is nothing but this. So you're creating some information, right? You're creating age variable and you're saving the information there. So the saving may be permanent or may be temporary. Doesn't matter here. So you are creating one variable and you're saving information. And if you want to perform some operations on it, we use something known as operators. So you have learned what are variables, what are different types of variables in JavaScript. And one more thing. Okay, let's go with this. So you have a equals to 10. So you have saved something, and you should never forget how this is saved in random access memory. Remember, again, binary, transistors, all those things should come to it. It's just that you are expressing in plain English. Why? Because it is easy to express in English than expressing in binary. You cannot directly go to computer and say that, okay, save 1010 and convert it into binary. Here it is easy, but when you're trying to save an image, it is impossible to keep track of all those numbers and digits. Human mind cannot comprehend those binary digits, right? So that's the reason why we have a medium to communicate with the computer. So how do we communicate it? With the help of languages. Just like we are communicating in English, we communicate with computers in these programming languages. Yeah, most of the programming languages, definitely they are written in English. So you have English keywords. So I'm saying that, okay, give me a variable a and save the value 10 in it. After that, what I'm going to do, that's a different story. First thing, I'm saving it. And then I'm going to perform some operation. I'll say that, okay, add those two numbers and give me the result. And then I want to print that and say this, or console.log C. That is also fine. Like this. I've declared a variable, initialized it, I've declared another variable, initialized it, and I've initialized another variable, but the value is now the output of the operation. What is the operation here? Plus, adding, like that. Okay, so what are the types that we have learned so far? You know what is a number type, you know what is a string type, nothing but characters. And now there is one more thing, that is Boolean, that we need to learn. Boolean simply means that true or false. So it can save only two values. Sometimes we call it a flag also, like yes or no, that's all. So there would be some real world questions, right? Like yes or no. The answer would be either yes or no. There is no third option. Say, is he old? Either yes or no. You cannot have a third option. Like that, if you want to save that information, you use Boolean. So if you say type of is old, say it gives you Boolean. Yes or no. Say if I overwrite it, it would be like this. Either it will have true or false values. Okay, so now how does this get saved in random access memory? When I said var a equals to say 5, it is getting saved something like this, right? Say maybe 100 or something. But when I say is old equals to true, how does it get saved? Again, the same thing, it gets converted into a number, and true means 1, false means 0, and it is saved in your random access memory. That's how it is saved. So now the question is, how much space does it need in order to save this true or false? So these kind of questions will come in the interviews. 0 or 1, how much of space is needed to save this? Or here. So the space needed is only 1 bit, because it's 0 or 1, that's all. Although it is 0 or 1, actually it will take 1 byte as opposed to 1 bit. So the question would be, why does it need 1 byte? Why can't it take 1 bit? That kind of questions will come in interview. The reason why it can't take 1 bit, even though it is 0 or 1, it is saved in the computer like this. Like this, it is 0. Like this. This is how computer saves false, true. Now the interviewer wants to know, why are you wasting these many digits, right? Why can't you can save 7 bits, but computer actually takes this much of space in order to save it. The reason why it takes is because your block size is 1 byte. There is no lesser size than that. Every block is 1 byte. Minimum amount of space that is allocated to block is 1 byte. So that's the reason, although your true and false need only 1 bit, still your computer will take the entire byte of space. So if you can answer these questions, this shows your confidence, and this shows your fundamental knowledge, like how fundamental you're strong. So anyway, let's get back to our browser again. So we have learned string, number, and undefined, and then Boolean. So one more time, I'm repeating 2 fundamental operations that you perform irrespective of how much experienced you are, what kind of problem you're solving, is saving the data and performing operations. So how do you perform operations? Using operators. How do you save the data? Using variables. So operators, what are the different kinds of operators we have? So programming languages gives you all these operators. There are different categories like arithmetic operators, like plus, minus, multiplication, division, and modulus, right? And there are other operators like increment, plus plus, decrement, minus minus, and there are other operators like logical operators, and there are some binary operators, there are conditional operators, and so on and so forth. Anyway, we won't be able to discuss all of those things. We will just stick to arithmetic operators and end the discussion for today. So arithmetic operators, you may already know this: plus, minus, multiplication, and division. It's simply you have 2 operators and you want to perform some operations on it. You can add them, negate them, or multiply them, or divide them. And one confusing operator is modulus. So what does modulus do? Say you have a variable a is 10 and you have variable b is 5. So when you say a modulus 5, what do you expect? I mean, a modulus b. Expect 0. It's nothing but it gives you a reminder. So if you divide a with 6, what would be the reminder? 4, like that. Modulus is not percentage, although the symbol looks like a percentage, but it is. It gives you the reminder. So that's a reminder operator. And other operators that you have is a plus plus, right? And then b plus plus. Increment or decrement. So the only problem here with a plus plus and b plus plus is it is confusing sometimes. For instance, say you have a equals to 100 and you are assigning b this. What would be the value of b? If I say b, it would be 101. But if I say something like this, say I'll reset. Okay, or just again start from scratch. A is 100. So if I say plus plus a, the value would be 101. But if I say a plus plus, it would be 1. Again, I need to reset it. So I'll say equals to 100. And if I say a plus plus, it would be 100. Post increment and pre increment. You have to be careful here. So when you are saying increment and then assign, and then assign and then increment. So post and pre-increment, that's the only confusing thing. Otherwise, the value of a will always going to be incrementing. But anyway, I'll stop here. We will definitely discuss all these things in depth. I think it's 6:10. Yep, I would like to stop and give you 10 more minutes in order to answer your questions. So feel free to ask your questions, concerns, if you have anything. Yeah, just I'll summarize before opening for questions. So in this demo session, we have learned a bit of programming basics, industry standards, and then some of the hardware, and then JavaScript introduction. In the JavaScript introduction, we talked about variables and a bit of operators. And the operators, to be more precise, we talked about arithmetic operators. By no means this discussion is comprehensive on JavaScript. Definitely there is more to learn, but this is just the beginning. let me know if you have any questions or concerns.
Instead of where, why do we use once and let to declare variable?
Yeah. So let is introduced here newly in JavaScript. Let me show you that. Give me a minute. Okay, so say you have a block. I'll say if true, you're doing something, var a equals to x. And then can I access a here? So let's see, I'll type this. X is not defined, I'm sorry. Say a equals to 10. I'll change this here. Can I access a here? So it is inside the block. Yes, I can do it. But if you just want to do it with a let, you won't be able to do it. You'll get an error. Okay, this is, let's change this to b, or say a variable that we haven't used so far, d. Like this, so you get an error. So it's simply, if I want to answer you in one word, let is block scoped. So it will be only accessible inside a block. What is a block? Opening brace and closing brace. But var is not block scoped, it's function scoped. So what are functions and all those things, that definitely we will discuss. But the one word answer is var is old keyword. It's there from the beginning of JavaScript. Let is the new keyword, and let is only accessible inside the block. This is how Java works. Java also has this concept, block scoping, while JavaScript has functional scoping from beginning, and then they've introduced this let. So if you access it outside of the block, it will not be accessible. Yes. Any other questions?
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, can I ask one question?
Definitely.
Sir, my question is, I have a huge gap in my degree. So is there any scope to get the career start in this IT field? And my
Yes.
field is IT.
What is your stream?
Computer science only.
Okay, sure. So definitely there is hope. This is a very common question that comes, that I've completed my engineering, say 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and then can I get a job? Definitely you can. But the thing is, it's a bit difficult than a straight pass out candidate, right? So in order to fill that gap, you need to be ready with the skills. So I would say only one thing. If you want to get a job, focus on skills. That's all. Forget about everything. You don't need to worry about your background. You don't need to worry about your, probably the backlogs that you had earlier, maybe your less percentage that you have. Today, it's skills. Are you a problem solver? Can you solve problems? Can you write good code? All those things. So forget about all those things. Put some focus on your skills, improve those skills. Definitely you will get a job.
Sir, but I have to show what I have did in this time of gap.
So it depends. It depends. Again, some companies won't ask. Some companies definitely ask. So you should have a justification, like what have you done? Why was there a gap? So companies like these, let me go up here. They'll ask like why there is a gap. Why they are even particular about that. You should have a continuous education, right? Of say 15 years or 16 years of formal education. It should be continuous, that you should not even have a gap. So this is ridiculous today, because it's not guaranteed that you'll have continuous education, right? For various reasons, maybe you might have missed a year. And sometimes it's quite common to go for long-term coaching usually, and candidates have 1 year gap, right, between their engineering and intermediate. So it's ridiculous. So that's why I'm saying focus on these companies. They don't care. They don't care about the gap. So if you can show your skills, if you can prove yourself, they don't really worry about any of those things. So that's why these companies are rigid. They are very particular about few things, and even they don't even pay you the amount of money that you deserve, right? So that's why you focus on these. Definitely there is hope. And on top of that, there are many startups are coming, right? Startups don't even care about your age, your skills, your background. I mean, skills definitely they care, the background and the backlogs, all those things. So you can get into a startup. So the initial job is hard. The first job is always harder, right? And after that it's always easier.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Any other questions?
No, Mudhir, I have one question.
Sure.
So, means I need to know what type of job support I can get from Full Stack Academy. 100% placement guaranteed. What kind of support I can get from there?
Yeah, Mujib, I can take.
Yeah. I think it's your question. Yeah, please take it.
See, we try to Mohammed. We try to engage into the training, end-to-end training, and technically we deliver the complete modules which are necessary to get a job. And as soon as you complete the training, we have some assessments through which we will evaluate your market readiness. And after that, we will post your resume to the companies around in Hyderabad who look forward for this kind of technical skills. And we make sure that you get engaged in the training as well as in the interview skills. And we'll continuously guide towards how do you face an interview, how to prepare your resume, how to maintain your communication skills, and all those which are required for the job. And that's how we make the poster as the job guaranteed program. So it's not like that you just sit at home and you just pay the fees and you get a job. It's not like that. We deliver the training, and we, based on your technical skills, we would get you a job.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yep, that's true, right? Like there is a 50% of effort put from the institute, no matter which institute it is, and there is definitely the rest of the 50% that you should put. Like maybe it's working after these sessions, and then practicing it and coming up with questions, all those things. So that's when it becomes 100%. Otherwise, definitely there is a void that you need to fill in sooner or later. Like if you're done with the course and if you don't practice it, don't expect to just go and crack the interview that easily, right? Definitely you need to put that effort in order to crack the interviews. And one more thing is, like the amount of money the companies are paying is going up. It's pretty good salary. Like 13 lakhs is not a joke. ServiceNow has paid last year 13 lakhs to fresher. So at the same time, they're making these interviews harder. So when they are paying money, it's like they're not just paying like that. They're making the interviews also harder. So,
sir, sorry for interrupting you.
no issues. Go ahead.
Where is Full Stack Academy office in Tolichogi, sir?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we are located in Tolichoki main road. It's basically an opposite to Galaxy Theatre, which is a very big landmark in Tolichoki. Yeah, besides the Pi Electronics and Movie Planet.
Okay. Sir, this program is job guaranteed, sir. Full Stack program.
Yeah, that's what I have answered the previous questions from
Yeah. Depending on my 50% of skills, it will be easy.
We always encourage the student community to get their job on your own skills rather than getting some hands-on support or a backdoor entry that doesn't have a pleasant your career. If you are very hard worker and passionate, definitely we are there to help you out. We are kind of an placeholder where you come to us we get the industry experts onto the floor. You interact with them, try to share the knowledge, try to get the knowledge, try to get the experience, inputs from the industry experts, and try to make yourself, so professional, so that the jobs will be always there for you. The companies will also want it, more than 2-3 companies will ask you to join them. So that's how we want to play a role as a placeholder.
So now office timings, what is office timing?
See, I'm available. You can call me, and before you come. So we are not like exactly opening in the morning, because we all shifted our class to online trainings. So
Online.
yeah.
But I should come to Lishogi regularly. That's why I'm asking.
Why
I
you
actually stay at my.
No.
I'm working
This complete training is in online. Okay. So
Yes,
if at all you need to come, you can come to the center and you can sit and practice. That's no problem. So you can come and always utilize our facility, and to better practice. For a peer learning, more than one student is there. You can sit in a group and you can learn, and you can practice for 8 hours. There's no issues. We are always open. Our center is always open. During this lockdown, we are not opening. After lockdown, we are open.
Okay. Sir, can I get your number?
Yeah, 9963515815.
Yeah, maybe from the WhatsApp group also you can get it, I think.
Oh, sir, name?
My name is Ejaz Ahmed. I'm the managing director for Full Stack Academy.
Okay, I will take from there.
Yeah, thank you. I believe it's long time for Mujib Bhai has given a complete round of demonstration knowledge on a subject, and what is the scope of the subject, how you can work it out. So that's great, Mujib Bhai. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully our attendees will always will try to benefit out of it. Please reach to us in the group, and you can also ping me in a WhatsApp. If you are looking ahead to join this course, please put me a message and I'll reply you back. Or also you can call me up 9963515815.
Sir, when this course will be going to start, sir?
We will start in a week, like first week or a maximum second week of June, based on availability of Mujib Sab. We will start it. We'll announce the timings as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, folks. Thanks for joining the session. Have a good day then.
Thank you very much, Mujib Sab. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.